everyone, we are back this week, and boy, am I glad I am. This week, you're going to hear all about a little-known group of people that compete in some of the craziest costumes on one of the craziest days in one of the craziest cities. If you haven't figured out by the title of the episode, we're talking about the Mummers. Hear what made Chris say,
"It's crazy costumes, but there's no there's no flowers on their costumes, so I'm a little
and what made Tom go,
"Did you just have your own cheering section?"
All this and more on this week's episode of On a Water Break.
Let's go. Set it up.
Top of the show.
Form, check form. Cover down.
Do it again.
Run it back. And we'll see you at the show.
Welcome
Hey.
to another episode of On a Water Break, the podcast where we talk about everything you and your friends are talking about at rehearsal on a water break. This week, we have a great group of hosts and a pretty fun topic that we are going to be doing over 2 weeks. That's right. Our Mummers episode is a double hitter. This week, Stephen and I talked to John Barron, a longtime mummer who has participated in the activity for over 35 years. He is a wealth of knowledge on the subject, and the trivia game that they play at the end is quite impressive. Before we deep dive into all that is a mummer, let's see who's hanging out with us on the sidelines this week. Chris.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Happy to be back.
Tom.
Hello from sunny California.
Stephen.
Hey, Jackie. Happy to be here.
And Beth.
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm so happy that we get to talk about the Mummers.
So, Chris, you told me before the episode started that you know nothing of the Mummers. Did you get to do any research in prep for this episode?
Okay, so full disclosure, no. I did not have a chance to do any research, and all I know of the Mummers is it's crazy costumes, but there's no there's no flowers on their costumes, so I'm I have to why it's called the Mummers to begin with, and I know it takes place on like a corner of a street in Philadelphia, but that's all I know, and I know that they're really, really, really into this activity, so I'm really excited to learn more about what this whole crazy thing is.
So Chris is a literalist with the mums. He's going down the literal mums.
Plural mums.
Rose parade, flowers everywhere.
I'm going to say, it's not the Rose Parade.
It's the opposite of the Rose Parade.
That is very true.
It really kind of is.
Yeah.
Well, let's get it going with John Barron.
Feathers, sequins, banjos, saxophones, double basses, dancers, oversized props, plumbers, UPS drivers, teachers, professional musicians, New Year's, and a whole lot of craziness. Put that all together and plop it in the city of Philadelphia, and you have today's topic. That's right, for those of you who are in the know, or those who aren't a part of the John, we are talking Mummers, a Philadelphia New Year's tradition.
That's right, Beth. We are talking all things Mummers, or at least one section. This time we're going to be focused on string bands. And this past New Year's, I actually got a chance to work with one of the groups. It was really quite an experience. But before we bring in our first guest, let's get into just what exactly is a mummer. So, according to Wikipedia, the Mummers Parade is held each New Year's Day in Philadelphia, and it's the oldest continuous folk parade in the U.S. Local clubs, normally called New Year's Associations or New Year's Brigades, compete in one of 5 categories, being comics, wench brigades, fancies, string bands, and fancy brigades. They prepare elaborate costumes, performance routines, and movable scenery types of props, which take months to complete. And this is all done out of clubhouses, many of which are on or near 2nd Street, which locals might call 2 Street. It's in the South Philadelphia area of the city. And these also serve as social gathering places for all the members.
That's right, Stephen. And, this parade traces back to the mid-17th century roots, blending elements from Swedish, Finnish, Irish, English, German, and other European heritages, as well as African heritage. Swedes and Finns brought the custom of visiting neighbors on second day Christmas with them. This was soon extended through New Year's Day, with costumed celebrants loudly parading through the city.
And it's my understanding that this has been going on for quite a long time. The first official parade was actually held on January 1st, 1901, where the first string band Trilby, they were organized in 1898, first paraded in 1902. And they've actually paraded all the way up until their last parade in 2014. Which is pretty impressive to me, at least.
That's pretty impressive.
It's quite a long time. The official parade, it's been canceled only 3 times during its history, one of which was in 1919 as a result of the Spanish flu epidemic, then in 1934 due to the effects of the Great Depression and lack of prize money that year, then just recently in 2021 on the grounds of the COVID-19 pandemic. So really takes quite a special circumstance for this parade to not happen. Philadelphians love it every year.
Yes.
The comic wenches and other female roles in most of the skits, they've actually typically been performed by men in drag, at least as women weren't officially allowed in the parade until the 1970s.
Wow. That feels like way too recently.
Yeah,
like...
people had been voting, women had been voting for 50 years at that point before they could be allowed in the parade. Must be a larger civic duty in Philadelphia.
I'm kind of thinking about that for a second here, but but let's get some real perspective from someone that has been around the Mummers for basically his entire adult life and is currently the drill master for the Greater Kensington String Band, as well as the head basketball coach at Gwynedd Mercy College, the amazing John Barron.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks
I've
for
been
being
called amazing since my kids were like 9 years old because I trained them for 9 years to call me amazing. And then,
Well, we'll stick with amazing, at least for tonight, right, Stephen? We can call him amazing.
Yeah, I can call you amazing for the next 30 minutes.
all right, that's fine. I'll take it when I can get it.
So John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got involved in the string band and Mummers and a little bit of your history?
So the story about me and getting involved with string band is kind of it's a unique little story because I played basketball. I mean, you mentioned I'm the basketball coach at Gwynedd Mercy University.
Sure.
I played baseball. I played football. Like I was a sports guy, but my parents wanted me to be well-rounded. So they forced me to do some different other things. And I played saxophone when I was 9, 10, and 11 years old. So growing up, most of the string bands at that time, because there were 27 at the time, and basically the neighborhoods in the city of Philadelphia all had a string band. So
for everyone's context, how many are there today?
So there are 14 today. So the hobby has dwindled a little bit. But in the 80s, which is a long time ago, when I was 11 years old, so different areas of the city had their own string band. So Harrogate was one, Greater Kensington, which I'm in now, was in Kensington at the time. Of course, there were the congregating groups in South Philadelphia. There were a lot in South Philadelphia. But the string band, which was closest to where I lived growing up, was called Uptown String Band because we were uptown, and they were back in the, organized back in the 40s. But it was at the corner of my street growing up. So when I was like a young kid, the whole neighborhood on New Year's morning would wait to hear them start to practice, or warm up outside their clubhouse. And they would go to the elementary school that I went to. And then they would practice for about 45 minutes to an hour and do their warm up. And we would get to know like different people in the band. So like the neighborhood folks started to know Bill Herwig, and I remember Carmen DeLazio, and some guys that my parents then started to know and talk to. Cliff Johnson's another one. So long story short is I was 11 or 12 and my mom would make me practice my saxophone upstairs in my room for like 30 minutes. And I hated that 30 minutes a day. But what I did was, all the kids in the neighborhood were going to go to the string band on this one like November day and kind of go down because they were looking to get younger people involved, which we still do today,
Sure.
To kind of take on the tradition. But my mom wouldn't let me go. And I was the one kid in the neighborhood because my mom had some stereotypical thoughts about the Mummers and what it was going to do to an 11-year-old or 12-year-old kid with cursing and drinking and some things that I wasn't involved in. But
I think my mom shares those thoughts today, and I'm 24.
Well, I'm a dad now, so I think the same thing, and my daughter's 20. So the long story short is I basically kind of like rebelled slightly and said, well, then I don't want to play saxophone anymore. And So the following spring, when the kids from the neighborhood, some of which are still my really good friends, were actually joining and going and doing some things with the string band, the Uptown String Band. My best friend was Joey Watt, and his mom talked to my mom about letting me go. So my mom would go down to this, and Jeremy would have to, and Steven, since you did this with us this year, just imagine this happening today, right? So practice was at 8:00 and it was over at 10. So my mom would take me down at 7:58 and knock on the string band door until somebody came and answered the door, and she would hand me off. And at 9:59, she was standing on the doorstep of the string band waiting to collect me to take me back.
Yeah, she wanted no extracurriculars.
And I lived 9 houses from the place, so it's not
That's
so
great.
that's how I joined. I mean, I played saxophone. I was actually, the kids in the neighborhood, a couple of them actually didn't play saxophone at the time, but it was like a hangout spot. And I think in the end, I think my mom would tell the story that it kind of kept us involved all the time. And obviously I was playing sports, but then when I wasn't playing sports, I was at the Mummers Club. She always knew where we were. All the parents knew where we were. They trusted the guys that were there. And I was playing saxophone already. And then some of those guys started to learn saxophone. And we were in 7th grade or so, 6th, 7th grade. And then when I got to high school, I moved. I met other guys in what at that point was a better string band, but it was in South Philly. And there was a family that didn't live too far from me that was involved with Hegeman String Band. And then that's where I kind of settled for over 30 years, became captain of that string band and was doing that for 20 years. And then most recently with the pandemic and some of the struggles that Hegeman had, I decided to kind of sit out for 1 year. And then I reconnected with Joey Watt, who's that same kid from Uptown.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was associated with Greater Kensington, and it all kind of has come full circle, and I'm now in Greater Kensington. And he's involved a little bit, and we're trying to get him back full time, but he's the connection that got me back to Greater Kensington. So there's my 38 years in a 2-minute story.
That was great.
Yeah, no, it is a great story. It actually, you spoke on something we were interested in hearing a little bit about. You started with Uptown and then you moved to Hegeman for quite a while. We were curious, how typical is it for people to move between ensembles, or is it normal to stick one place and stay for quite a long time?
Well, I think it's like anything else. I mean, like when you talk to people of, older times, like my age and even older, they stayed at their work for, 35 years before they retired. And I think this day and age, I mean, you talk to someone in any profession and they're there for 3 or 4 years and then they're promoted. And if they're not promoted in the right fashion, they look to move to the next competing company and move on and on and on. I think it's the answer to that in a nutshell is just depends. It depends on, how stable your string band is. I always basically say it's like a circle. There are groups that aren't as good today that were great when I was younger. And, there are a few that have stayed at the top for a long, long time, 30, 40 years. But most of the string bands, I kind of equate it to like a family. We own a house, which is our clubhouse. We have electric bills and mortgages and bills to pay. Inside of your family, you fight sometimes with your brother and make up with your brother. And then your sister's involved with liking one brother more than the other. And then your parents have to get involved. And that's kind of like the administration. But sometimes when people grow up, their lives take a different turn. Like, when I was in Hegeman for as long as I was, when my age group got into our early 30s, most of us had gotten married and started to have kids. And that drew some of those families, some of those guys and gals away from making mummers a priority in their life. Right. So sometimes your string band, if it's all of one age group or a majority of one age group, and that happens, then your membership deteriorates, and then the amount of money you can raise deteriorates. And then sometimes all those variables add into your New Year's Day performance might not be as good as it has been. So with that all being said, there's so many people that move. Yes, that happens. There are some like me. I was in mine. I never thought I was ever going to go anywhere else. But, 30 some years was a lot for me. And I had dabbled at the beginning for 2 or 3 years in my neighborhood one. And now, hopefully a long career here at Greater Kensington. So the answer is it kind of varies.
I think you equated it to the family concept, and the people I've known in string bands as long as I have anyway, that's what they talk about. It's a family, it's a family clubhouse, it's a family environment. What does like a typical season look like? Like when do you typically choose the theme of your show? Obviously the parade's on New Year's Day, but like when do you start that, and how does the season kind of build and evolve from there?
Yeah, I think that people often see the end result, and yet it's a year-long product. It starts from the beginning. So right about now, I'm recovering. So I mean, how long does that recovery, take place? Because we're there really a lot of hours in the month of November and December. But traditionally, theme submission is going to be in February. So all the groups will get together with their creative people. Sometimes those committees are large and sometimes they're not as large. Like ours, I think it's going to be like 3 or 4 people involved with coming up with what our next theme is going to be. And then basically there's 3 categories. There's the music portion, the production, and the costumes. And obviously they all intertwine. But for most of us, we have to go inside of all of those categories. So we don't have an in-house music arranger. We might with one of your future guests as these weeks go on, but he just joined just recently. But typically we go out to an outside arranger. We go outside to a costume designer. And just more recently with me, we've gone out to some production people to help with that as well. But then as the months go on, it really starts with getting ideas together, lots of theme committee meetings. COVID has taught us that we don't have to drive to the string band club to do that, which has actually been a really good thing. We do it a lot now through Zoom. I sit in my kitchen and I don't have to drive 45 minutes to the string band club. Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, we're getting ideas and we're working with a designer, typically with costumes, and there's some philosophies behind all this stuff. And then you move into getting your music arranger started. It's a 4-minute and 30-second production. He usually writes about 5 minutes. That's usually the time. Then we dwindle it down. And then the production person and people have to be involved with how they're going to utilize colors and costumes and ideas. But typically the springtime, we're getting all this stuff together. We spend the summer preparing for the music portion and getting that introduced. And getting the props at least started to be built. And then they start to get finished and painted as the fall comes. And when the fall rolls around in September, we are doing extra days on Sundays then with what you see on TV with what we call drill. Right. I think we would call that, I don't know, what do we call that in DCI? And
it would still be drill.
Drill. Yeah, it would still be drill.
Choreographer is usually involved in the fall as well. Now, as the back portion of that with dancers, they usually, rehearse differently than us, and we mesh everything together in November and December. And we bring, the costumes in and props. And once you think your drill, well, you think you're great, and then you have a prop that is way bigger than we anticipated, and you make adjustments. And as Stephen can allude to, we were making adjustments on New Year's morning to make it really go well.
New Year's morning was when the magic happened.
Say that again, Stephen?
I said New Year's morning is when the magic happens.
Well, I think I always wanted to ask you what you thought of New Year's morning, because I am like this big, organized, wanting it to be perfect person. But in Mummers, there's got to be crazy flexibility. So I always wanted to know what you thought of New Year's morning.
It was, to be totally honest with you, kind of stressful getting it together. But I think we had enough time, and it was good to have enough people back there that already knew what they were doing before we started that day. And it all got to work like one well-oiled machine before we got up to the performance stage. So
and I would agree. And my goal this year will be to back some of that up and to give Beth a little bit of background on it. Is we have, our membership and our people who are going to dance, and there's 67 total people that are allowed to be the maximum number. But quite honestly, it's like anything else. You need, droves of other people to help with changes and prop pushing and prop moving and stagehand. But the problem is with, most mummers, at least string bands, don't have stagehands that are actual members. The big group, the top 2 or 3 may have maybe 20 or 30, where we have 10. So we have to acquire our family members and think outside the box, like Westchester with the alumni and, some other high school groups, volunteer fire people. We were calling in the month of November and December, all these, little leagues that have 12-year-olds, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. And we were asking everyone to come, but then getting them to come multiple times to be as prepared as I think I would like to be is the issue. So Steven's talking about our 80 to 100 people that I had no idea their names or who they were associated with. And Steven, Jeremy, and I were bossing them around, do this, do that. And they were probably like, what am I doing?
They were great sports about it.
Say it again.
I said they were great sports about it.
Yeah, and it's all about the delivery. I think the three of us did a good job of making them feel like we can't do this without you. Thank you for doing it. I promise I'm going to try and get to know who you are over the course of this day. But in the end, we were really as well prepared as I think we could have been walking into the performance area on TV.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. We'll talk about it in a little more detail in a moment here, but I think it's time for us to get back to rehearsal. I know John is looking to check out the saxes, see who's going to join for next year. But we'll be back in a little bit here with more John Barron.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
Shop our extensive consignment inventory for great looks for your team that won't break your budget. Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
Check out our fun merchandise and gift items.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs. Contact us for custom show design services.
Clean out your storage areas and get money back into your budget with our consignment program.
Guard Closet is here to help you get all you want and need this winter season.
Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
Hey, this is Nicole, one of your hosts for On a Water Break, and I want to tell you about the Cookout. The Cookout is an event celebrating people of color in color guard. This event is happening in Dayton, Ohio, April 16th, the day after WGI Finals at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, aka headquarters. There will be presenters and speakers, networking opportunities, food, and more. To get more information on how to get your tickets to go to the Cookout, visit marchingcookout.com or visit our Instagram, it's the Cookout CG, or our Facebook page, The Cookout. We can't wait to see you there.
Okay, so if anybody is local to Philadelphia, you have probably seen, heard, or experienced what is known as the Mummer's Strut. And I've been to many weddings where this is a dance. And I would love for John to maybe share about the strut, what it looks like, what the vibe is. It's almost an emotion. Like I think like as soon as people hear that music, they just go right into it. Tell us about that, John.
Yeah, we call it like the national anthem dance of the month.
Exactly, yeah.
So basically, I think a lot of things, on New Year's Day, we spend a lot of money and we have to raise money through the course of the year. We do that in various ways. But one of the main ways that we do it is we do approximately 50 to 60 events, whether it be a 4th of July parade, Memorial Day parade, but we do things, a lot of weddings as well. When I was captain, one of my jobs for all the years was to announce. So I always had the microphone in my hand talking about, what we're going to do next. And I would always get our people around or the gathering, the wedding party, and we would teach everyone the Mummer's Strut. And basically what I would say is I want you to put your number one finger up, and depending where we were, the Eagles, the Flyers. Every once in a while I would lie. If we were in Boston, I would say the Patriots or something. Their number one's, sign up in the air. And I would say, put your behind out. And they would put your behind out. And I know we're on the radio here and listening, and basically move your feet up and down and turn around and do-si-do, and you have the Mummer's Strut. And
that's a great description. Yeah.
So we would get people out and we would get them to dance. But when we're at concerts, we're at like in Ridley Park, Delaware County, we do, and we're in the band shell, we do like a question and answers period. So a lot of times, this one time I remember the most, where this gentleman goes to the microphone out in the audience and he says, okay, the Mummer's Strut's awesome. I'm from the Philadelphia area, but where did it come from? And basically the story that I always told was the parade started in 1901. And currently right now, we have a lead car on New Year's Day or a Winnebago that has a sign that says Greater Kensington String Band and tells you what our theme is. But back in the 1900s, they didn't have, obviously, automotives.
Right.
So what was the one thing, I'm asking you both, what was the one thing do you think that led the bands up the street?
Horses.
Horses. So the horses would have to do their duty and drop along the way. And in the 1900s, the Mummer Strut came from actually trying to avoid all horses. And that's where
Love it.
So that is the story. Whether it's true or not, that's the story that I told that was passed down from all the captains before me.
I'm telling that story. I'm taking that. I am taking it so many places. This is great.
The crappy history of the Mummer
Strut.
Strut.
Your number one sign out, and you put your behind out, and you avoid all the horse manure up the street. That's where the Mummer Strut came from. So that's that story.
Well, that's an interesting one. I'm glad that you shared that with us. So I actually joined Greater Kensington to start helping you guys out very close to the end of the year. It was already around December when I first showed up. But even from that moment, I felt it accelerating towards the finish. Things really came to a head in the last week. It's very similar to like the finals week that many of our listeners might be used to. Could you walk us through sort of what it's like for you being the kind of lead person in charge of the ensemble the week before the performance?
Yeah, so I think that's perfect. That's a perfect analogy too, because I work at a university. I have kids that are taking finals, and if you ask a college kid to describe what their finals week is, I think it's what us as mummers would say the day after Christmas through New Year's Day. We call it Hell Week. It's where everything is crammed into one. If you're a diehard older guy like myself, we kind of conditioned ourselves to like just get Christmas out of the way. And I know it might sound bad, especially if you have little kids, but I literally couldn't wait till Christmas was over to get the going and getting all the stuff that we had to prepare for. And ironically, the story that I wanted to say is, so I met my wife in the Mummers in Hageman when I first joined back in 1994. And unfortunately, she passed away a little while back from cancer. But when I met her that first year, her birthday was December 29th. So
wow.
We had to make an agreement that her birthday was from now on going to be celebrated on January 29th. So we were going to make a big deal about it. We were going to do a whole big thing. And every year I tried. Now, I had a cake for her after rehearsal on the 29th every year. We brought it back, and the string band at the club would sing happy birthday to her. And I did give her a gift on the 29th as well. But we celebrated and did the weekend away or did the dinner or whatever we did when we had kids. We had family dinner on January 29th, because during that week, you just spend your entire time at the string band club, whether it's fixing costumes that don't fit or fell off during your dress rehearsal, painting props, putting all the stuff, Stephen, that you saw us do. Like there's just a laundry list, and we make a big one. And I was usually the person I am now that keeps track of what needs to get done. And we have many people are off between Christmas and New Year's, with their jobs, or at least off maybe one day after Christmas or a couple of days before New Year's. So we often have 20, 30 people just working in the gym where we rehearse with props, or in the clubhouse with costumes. And then we obviously have rehearsals and prop rehearsal and dress rehearsal that week as well. So there's no doubt that I mentioned being on vacation right now, or I needed a recovery time. It's because I spent pretty much every single waking hour that week at the String Band Club.
Right. And you're the master organizer in charge, kind of just making sure that all the different functions, everyone else is doing everything they need to.
Well, in this role, yes. I mean, the thing that's been unique for me in the last 2 years is I was doing that same thing in my other group, and I was trying to be good myself as captain of the band. And, a few years back when we had Todd come in and help us, he took a lot of that off of me. And then I was able to work on my own stuff and concentrate on me. Now with Jeremy and me being involved, the captain currently, Sean, is able to kind of do that as well. We got to a point like on Tuesday of the week of where I had to have this candid conversation, which I don't know if Jeremy remembers. It was a little bit more indignant and said, you need to go and concentrate on being good yourself. Like my daughter was his choreographer and, she's taken up with our family tradition as well. We're all involved and, he did great on New Year's Day because he really started to concentrate on himself. And I was able to work with and making sure everything kind of came together.
That's awesome, and what a commitment you guys all do. I mean, we all see the end result as the viewers, whether we're watching at home or on the parade route. But it's a lot. It's a lot of work and a lot of commitment and passion from you guys. It's very impressive. It really is. And for those of you who haven't seen a Mummers Parade, I would invite you to either Google, YouTube, find them on social media and take a look because the payoff is definitely worth it. John, I just want you to know we have a little bit of a fun event that we like to do with our guests. And we usually have a game of some sort. And I think Stephen has all the rules that we can go over for you.
I surely do. So since you're the all-knowing mummer, you're a grand encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to winners, we thought that we could give you a little quiz. So you'll have 60 seconds to get as many of these right as possible. The game's simple. Beth will be giving you a year. You'll tell us the winner, and bonus points if you could also tell us who won captain that year.
Oh, wow.
I'll be keeping time.
I'm scared.
Are you ready?
I'm not ready. I need to have my timer ready to go.
Okay, so
I'm
you tell me
ready.
when you say go, I'll say the first year.
All right.
Well, it's not fair if you go back to like 1920.
Starting from 1901.
Oh, jeez.
Who was the...
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
I'll give you we're not starting from 1901, I'm sure of it.
Okay.
No.
I'll give you a 3, 2, 1, and then Beth will begin.
All right.
3, 2, 1, go.
1990.
1990 was Polish American String Band.
Right? Do you know the captain?
Captain that won, I'm going to guess, was Stan Magenta.
Bobby Cunningham.
2014.
2014.
2014 was... Captain was Jimmy Good. No, wait, I won captain.
There you go.
Wait, I won. Okay. So that means Quaker City won first prize. I won captain.
Correct. 2020.
2020 was the year I sat out. South Philadelphia String Band, Denny Palandro.
Correct on both. 2000.
2000, whoa. Fralinger, Bill Bowen.
That's the captain who won.
Okay, so the winner was Furco String Band.
Quaker City.
Quaker City.
1930.
Oh, geez, 1930.
Last one.
What's that?
Last one.
Oh, 1930. I'll go Harrogate String Band.
That Furco.
Furco. That should have guessed. Give me one more as a bonus. Come on.
Okay, bonus 1987.
1987 was Hageman got third, Quaker City, and Bob Shannon.
Nope, it was Fralinger.
Oh my God, why am I so bad at this?
Their theme was Copa Banana.
The best theme of all time, but then the next year was Quaker, and when they did Hills Are Alive. Okay.
Okay. Bill Bowen Jr. was the 87's captain of the year.
Okay, so I was kind of half and half.
I think you did pretty well. I feel like with a 30-year career in this mummers activity that it would start to blend together for me right away. So I'm pretty impressed.
I know like 86 to like 90 when I was like mummer geeky guy. Like 15 years, like everything, and I got the 87 one wrong.
That's all good. It's a lot of time to cover for anybody. So, well, I just wanted to thank you. Thank you, John, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure, and your knowledge base is it's unmatchable. Next week, we have members from Greater Kensington to talk to us more about the amazing activity. So we're excited to talk to them. But in the meantime, John, can you tell us a little bit more about how we can find out about the mummers and you, and how to get involved with mummers on social media, or how to contact anybody?
Yeah, so like the Philadelphia String Band Association has a social media in every medium, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Instagram, Twitter. Our personal one, we do have the same thing, Greater Kensington String Band. All you have to do is Google it. We are on Edmond Street, right in Northeast Philly, where 95 and Cotman Avenue come together. But we are looking to increase our membership of just people that want to be involved. So if you like what you heard, you don't have to play an instrument, because to be honest with you, you could learn if you choose not to learn, you could be a social member. We never really touched on how this is a social activity throughout the year too. And one of the reasons why I loved this string band over some of the others that were calling me when I kind of was sitting out that 1 year after leaving Hageman String Band is that these guys and girls do a lot of stuff together. You know, guys that are in, you know, bands on Friday night. I play golf with some of these guys. We've gone out to baseball games, you know, mixing families. That's kind of what this is all based about. And like somebody like my daughter at 20 and me at 50 and my son at 18 have different factions of people that they can meet and become friends with. So yeah, we are looking for people, whether you play an instrument, whether you dance, whether you're a builder, whether you just want to come and check it out and see what it's like to hang out. Greater Kensington String Band on any of the social medias would be great.
That's fantastic. Thanks, John, for sharing that information. Thank you again for joining us. And okay, now just to all of our listeners, let's stay tuned for news with the rest of our hosts. Now it's back to rehearsal, everybody.
Guard Closet was founded as a consignment business in 2000. Since then, it has grown to include winter guard, band, percussion, and other genres.
Shop our extensive consignment inventory for great looks for your team that won't break your budget. Max out your rehearsal time and set up a microsite for easy student ordering for shoes, gloves, and other equipment.
Check out our fun merchandise and gift items.
We can help you with custom flag and costuming designs. Contact us for custom show design services.
Clean out your storage areas and get money back into your budget with our consignment program.
Guard Closet is here to help you get all you want and need this winter season.
Check us out at guardcloset.com and follow us on social media.
Hey, this is Nicole, one of your hosts for On a Water Break, and I want to tell you about the Cookout. The Cookout is an event celebrating people of color in color guard. This event is happening in Dayton, Ohio, April 16th, the day after WGI Finals at the Courtyard Marriott Hotel, aka headquarters. There will be presenters and speakers, networking opportunities, food, and more. To get more information on how to get your tickets to go to the Cookout, visit marchingcookout.com or visit our Instagram, it's the Cookout CG, or our Facebook page, the Cookout. We can't wait to see you there.
Okay, everyone, put all the sequins and feathers away. John is leaving. But if you play saxophone or are interested in the Mummers, definitely go check them out. I cannot believe how quick he was with all those names of groups and the years. I mean, there's no way I could do that for WGI or DCI. Anyways, it is the beginning of the winter season. We thought maybe it might be nice to start a new segment. It is called Wisdom from Whitney. Our host, Whitney, has been there and done that when it comes to teaching color guard. So who better to give us a little bit of inspiration or just plain truth? Take it away, Whitney.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Hey, everybody, this is Whitney. I would just like to give everybody some quick help and info on what to do this weekend or whenever your first competition may be. Make sure that, if you're an instructor, don't forget to breathe and take it one step at a time. Make sure that you read your director's packets and you know the flow of the competition. Don't assume that you know it just because you've been to that show before. They can change the flow sometimes. Make sure you are confident in what you're doing, where you're going, and just be positive with your students. They are going to be a direct reflection of you. If you're feeling nervous and showing nerves, likely your members will do the same. So no matter what you're feeling, try and exude confidence and remain calm. Take some deep breaths with them before you go on the floor. It's one of my favorite things to do because it calms me down and it also calms the students down and just reminds them to breathe through their anxiety. Make sure that anyone that's there to help you has clear instructions on what you would like them to do. Make sure you practice how you're going to fold and unfold your tarp at the performance. This is huge for making sure that your performers and anyone that's on your tarp crew really is confident in what they're doing and is going to alleviate a huge amount of stress for you and everyone involved. Make sure to go through the full warm-up process, explain to the members especially if they're a younger group and you have a lot of newbies in your group. Explain to them what happens where, how much time you have in each space, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. Go through the hallways, walk through the hallways, and give them that same experience that they would at a competition, so that they feel like they've already done it when you get to that first competition and you go through the process with them. I also recommend the entire first week before you compete to do a little bit of a pre-show experience with them. It doesn't take a lot of time, but make them leave the gym, fold the tarp halfway according to where the timeline is that weekend, and make them go out in the hall and make them wait there for their 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes and do their pre-show rituals. Make them come in, time them, do the announcements, make them feel as prepared as possible and replicate that feeling before they actually do their run-throughs at rehearsal. To the performers, just take some deep breaths when you get out there. Make sure you are looking up at the audience, find the judges. Do not ignore them while you're setting up. Make sure you're not like waving at your mom and your friends and dad. You can absolutely acknowledge them and smile at them, perform for them. Make sure you are taking in all of your surroundings. Check out the lights as you're setting up. Check out the ceiling heights. Are there basketball goals? Look around the room. Where's the sound table? Where are the speakers? Just be extra aware of your surroundings as you are setting up. You can take in a lot of information just by being aware of what is around you. Make sure you stay connected with everybody else on the floor, and don't forget to share your love of performing and your experience with the audience and the judges. They're there to see you and they want to see you succeed. If something goes wrong, and likely it will this early in the season, you just have to keep going. Make sure you're recovering quickly. Remember that if you mess up, you are likely going to have more eyes on you because that break in the performance draws focus to you. You're going to get more credit for a swift recovery in that moment. Don't forget that you're a team and teammates have to help each other out, especially during performances. Also, don't forget to enjoy yourself and be in the moment. Enjoy what you're doing, enjoy who you're doing it with, and really just try and stay focused and remain in the now. Don't think about what has already happened or what's about to happen. Just stay with yourself and with your teammates. I hope everybody has a wonderful first competition, and we cannot wait to see what everybody does this season on the floor. Have a great one.
Thanks, Whitney. Well, it's the time of rehearsal where we do our gush and goes. This is the time where our hosts get to gush and go on about anything they want to do having to do with the marching arts. Let's start with Chris.
All right. Hey, guys. So this past weekend, I was part of the Southern California School Band and Orchestra Association Winter Conference. It's the first time we've had the conference since we are all in COVID protocol. So we had over 600 music educators and designers and teachers at this conference talking all things music. And one of the segments that my company, Music and Arts, hosted was an educator, music band director, instrument repair session. And we had nearly 50 music educators in a very small conference room going over how to repad a clarinet or put new cork on an instrument. And the craziest part was the 50 band directors sharing 25 blowtorches, like the ones you would use on your creme brulee. So 50 band directors and blowtorches in a small room. What could go wrong? Luckily, we did not burn down the room, and everyone had a good time, and no one burned themselves. So it was a really great opportunity for them. It was really, really popular. I think we're going to try to do a summer session. So thanks to all the educators who came out to the SSBWay conference, and we hope your instrument repairs go swimmingly.
You're brave, Chris.
Hey, I didn't have to do it. I just had to hand out stuff and run away.
I mean, so you would think that the educators would have had more opportunities to learn that in college.
You'd think so, but
I'm glad you were there to educate them.
Yeah, exactly. These are the skills that they don't teach you in school that they desperately need to do, and other things like how to order buses for your trip, all that stuff. So we're trying to help them out as much as we can.
Exactly. That's really cool. So I guess it's my turn to gush and go. And I just wanted to say that I'm sending all of my good vibes and wishes to all the indoor programs that are launching these weeks. I remember a long time ago, I was asked to do one rehearsal as kind of a visual foot tech, if you will, for an indoor guard. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me being a woodwind player and not having any exposure to indoor. It was an indoor color guard, and I kind of got the bug. I made my own flag. I was remembering this as we were talking about it last week. I made my own flag, and my mom had it in the garage for years. But I really just stopped at drop spins. That's where I ended my illustrious career. But I'm sending all good vibes to all the students out there doing it this year, and I hope you all have a successful season.
It's that time of year. I want to gush and go a little bit about NFL drum lines. And first of all, shout out the number one line from the number one football team in the country. I'm talking about the Birds, the Eagles drum line, who I got to see perform live at the tailgate this weekend, and it was hype. Everyone loves them. The city of Philadelphia loves them. It looks like a good time, and I'm certainly trying to get in there maybe next year. Did you guys know that they're going to get rings when the Eagles win the Super Bowl in a few weeks?
Wait. Did you just have your own cheering section?
That was me. That was me.
It's for the Birds, baby.
Go Birds.
And yeah, that is super cool about the NFL drumline stuff.
I think that's so cool. I'm kind of mad that I didn't get into it this year. Seems like this would have been the time. But I'm sure they could two-peat. So
I hope more teams have them, and that would be a cool thing to see. It's like a little NFL drumline thing at DCI or WGI maybe.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool. Certainly, I know the Giants drumline's got a good one, and I've actually heard they might get one out in the Midwest soon with the Cincinnati Bengals. And there's a ton of great drumlines out in that area, so I'm sure they would be amazing.
Yeah, the Bears have a pretty cool drumline, the 49ers, yeah.
And the Ravens have a whole band.
The Ravens have a whole band.
Yeah. Blue Devils started, Blue Devils Entertainment started with the Niner Noise, the 49ers drum line. They had those sweet looking gold and white drums. They looked so good.
Yeah, and I think now the Blue Devils kind of manage a whole lot of different NFL drum lines, is my understanding.
Yep.
Yeah, what a cool thing to get involved with.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool to me.
Hey, my gush and go is WGI this year is back to full rules, full timing. Everything is back to the way it was pre-pandemic. There's a show max, a show minimum time. All the rules are back in play. It's exciting. It's going to be a fun year.
Nice. It's good to see some normalcy return back to the activity there.
For sure.
And especially the way it comes into rehearsal. Everyone got to have a full season, no kind of interruptions throughout the winter. So I think we're going to see some good stuff in April.
That should definitely be a good time. Okay, kids, before we get to the news, let's have our amazing band parent extraordinaire, Cindy Berry, a.k.a. Leander Mama, inspire us for this week.
Hey friends, it's Leander Mama with a new Mama Minute. This one is especially exciting to me because it's about one of my all-time favorite activities. Today I want to talk to you about color guard in the wintertime, otherwise known as Winter Guard. Winter Guard is one of those mysterious activities that most marching band members and band families don't really know much about. They appreciate the beauty and the skills that they add to a marching show, but beyond that, most of us don't give them much thought. Well, Winter Guard is when our color guard friends really shine. They perform incredibly well choreographed routines based on a theme, and by using dance, a bit of gymnastics, and all of the pieces of guard equipment that they can imagine, they turn high school and college gymnasiums into beautiful displays of a truly exquisite art. And they turn it all into the most exciting and amazing competitions you can imagine. Now, unlike BOA, the guards are classified not by size, but by skill level and expertise. Often you will see schools bringing more than one guard to a contest. They might have a beginner group, a JV, and a varsity group, and each class competes against other guards in their same class. Now, another really cool thing about Winter Guard is it includes independent classes who are not affiliated with high schools, but who compete on a more professional level. You honestly haven't experienced anything like going to a Winter Guard contest and seeing these DCI-like performances from some of these independent groups. But even some of the high school guards will perform at a level that will absolutely blow your mind. If you have never been to a Winter Guard competition, I invite you to do so this year. The season starts in full force this weekend, and it ends with World Championships in Dayton, Ohio in April. Now, I could talk a whole lot more about World Championships, but I'll save that for another time. Thanks for listening to today's Mama Minute. Now, you can find me here on this podcast, or you can find me on Instagram at LeanderMama. You might also be able to find me at a WGI contest this winter. I will be in Austin in March, and I am planning to be at World Championships in April. And I would love to meet you guys. Have a great week, everyone.
Cindy's enthusiasm for Winter Guard is well known, so make sure you follow her at LeanderMama so you can get all the good clips from this winter. It is time for the news. Tom, why don't you start us off?
So, talk about being in the right place at the right time in the right moment. There was the Mummers had a parade. There's a person that was involved with being a mummer, a performer. I don't know if he was a musician, but he was a performer with the Mummers. He went to an Eagles game dressed in his Mummers costume. And a fan was having some sort of emergency moment. He sprung into action as an emergency room tech and pretty much saved this guy's life. Him and another fan that was a nurse. And the guy wakes up to seeing this guy leaning over him in full pink and green Mummers costume at a football game. Where am I now, right?
That must be one of the most Philadelphia experiences that anyone has ever had.
Well, saying that, the guy comes to and he asks what the score of the game was.
And that's also a very Philly reaction because it's all about the game. I mean, come on.
I think it's all about the birds. I know it all too well. My news story for this week, the Mummers actually have their own official drink now. It's called Mummers Row Philly Tea, which is a collaboration with Kiki Vodka, a distillery in Montgomery County. I got to try it on one of the parades down 2 Street a couple weeks back, and it's good. It's like a twisted tea a little bit, if you've ever tasted that, but maybe a little smoother. I actually liked it a lot, so I'm going to have to keep my eye open for where they're selling Mummers Philly tea.
They should have a glitter bomb that goes off when you crack it open.
Oh,
because
that's such a good idea.
Right? Guinness
those would be a hit at the parade.
It'd be so much fun at home, right? Just in your lap everywhere.
Well, the Mummers is subtle, so you need a subtle drink to go with a subtle parade. So
right.
Why not?
Chris, you have a non-Mummers story. This looks interesting.
Yes. So a high school band in Pennsylvania, United High School, was planning a trip to Disney World in April, and it was found out that that the money that they were raising for years for this trip had gone missing, and that was the Pennsylvania State Police is investigating, but they don't have any information regarding more about it right now. But it turns out that a Penns Manor High School offered to have the United High School band join them on their trip to Disney World in April. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to see another group extending a hand out and helping out these talented kids so they can have that same experience. It's awful to see people stealing from other kids for no apparent reason. But kudos and shout out to the Penns Manor Area High School Marching Band for bringing United on board. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's an insane gesture.
Did they
Wow.
figure out who did it is my question. Like, I want the tea here.
I do too. I haven't been able to. They're still trying to figure out who is involved with this theft. But me too. I definitely want to find out.
I have well, of course, being in travel and group travel, this really hit my heart hard. And it also, it's unfortunately, in this day and age, you do have to look out for things like this and make sure you have a trusted person in charge of your money, whatever your program is, and maybe making sure maybe there's more than one person. So you've got, some coverage to make sure that things are being done above board. It's really sad to think that anybody would take advantage of fundraising money. I mean, we all know what it's like to have to try to sell candy bars or Christmas wreaths or wrapping paper to try to do your activity, and to hear that was abused in any way is really, you abuse the trust of the kids, and they could taint them for their activity. But Penn's Manor standing up to do that is just, it's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
But as a travel planner, I would encourage everybody, when you are planning your trips, folks, and you're doing these big fundraising projects, really make sure you have more than one person in charge of the money, so that there's some accountability. But also, if you do hire a tour operator, a lot of times they can help you with collecting the money and keeping it in an escrow account for you, so that this type of thing doesn't happen. So just a little bit of a PSA for people that are planning their trips or saving their money, but those are the two things that I really wanted to make sure we shared with, the positive part of this trip, for these kids, is that Penn's Manor is incorporating them. And what a great experience.
Yeah.
Right. We all know what the benefits of the marching activity is.
That's some really great
it's really
advice,
great.
Beth.
You see like the spotlight of these top groups and they're well managed, but you forget there's still a lot of small town programs that, this one trip every so many years is what they do. And it's not operated on the level of these other programs, where they have that whole checks and balance system all lined up.
Exactly. And it just requires, maybe just a second person. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything extravagant, just like two people instead of one. And that can make a world of difference for a small program like United.
Yeah. Well, and I also found it interesting, too, that the United High School is nowhere near Penn's Manor. United High Schools, I think, is out near the Pittsburgh area, like near Johnstown, I think. And Penn's Manor is down in the York area. So that's quite a distance for them to travel, so see that be extended out across the state is fantastic.
It really is. The siren went out and Penn's Manor was able to step up and welcome them in. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to talk about the FAMU Marching 100. So Florida A&M University's Marching 100 recently experienced an all expenses paid trip to LA, where they performed at the Chosen Ones Invitational High School Basketball Tournament, which is a pretty big deal on the West Coast. And I've seen some news magazine articles about it on television and ESPN. But 60 band students, along with their staff and media team members, flew to LA, and they were at the University of Southern California's Galen Center on the 7th of January. So they played 3 halftime shows with tunes from Earth, Wind, and Fire, About Damn Time by Lizzo, Cuff It and Break My Soul by Beyonce, and Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. So clearly they came to entertain. This was not going to be a quiet, sit back kind of halftime show for any of these experiences. So it's really exciting for FAMU to be able to travel across country. LeBron James is involved in this activity. And he's a big supporter of their program at FAMU. So it was a big opportunity. And anytime a band or a group can travel across country, that takes a lot. It's a big undertaking, and it's great for the university.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I remember thinking back to my own college band experience that the halftime shows, they were just all about fun, which is so different from those competitive bands that a lot of us are used to. And the audiences loved it every time. So getting to get out there, and it almost in some ways can be more impactful because people are just having a great time. The band lights up the world when they're there.
But I think as soon as they recognize the songs, and that's what I think when you do those
totally.
popular tunes, the audience engages immediately because it's something they're already listening to, and then they hear it, they're like, hey, I know that song, and they tend to get more engaged. Which is really
I think
awesome.
like my favorite halftime show, we had a part of it that was the "If You Like Pina Coladas" song.
Oh, wow.
And that was like, it was such a jam for everyone in the Penn State Blue Band and like the 100,000 people in the stadium. We all love pina coladas up there. So
that's great.
Well, and those fans are really going to like remember how you made them feel, like more so than even they're going to remember, intricate drill or anything like that.
I think you're right, Jackie. It's about how you made them feel.
Absolutely. Well, wrapping up the news with this week, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. We have some great people that we're coming on to interview, most of whom were performers with the Greater Kensington String Band this last week or this last New Year's Day. They come from different walks of life, too. We've got some folks that are younger, some folks a little older, some instrumentalists, some dancers or color guard type of people as well. And they're all going to share their experience as well as what it really meant for them to be a part of the Greater Kensington String Band and to be in the Mummers activity. But I think you'll really like it. Make sure you check it out.
Absolutely. I think Stephen, it was really exciting to talk to them and experience, a little bit peripherally what they saw and experienced as members of the parade. And I know you can speak to that a little bit too. And we get to hear a little bit of your experience too, which is really fun. It's kind of having the inside track. So if you're listening to us, make sure you stay tuned for next week.
Okay, everyone. Thanks for a great rehearsal this week. Thank you to our hosts, Chris, Whitney, Cindy, Stephen, Beth, and Tom. Thank you to the amazing John Barron. Follow him at Coach Barron, or follow the Greater Kensington String Band at Greater Kensington String Band, all one word. To learn more about the Mummers, go to mummersmuseum.com and stay tuned next week. We're going to talk to some members of string bands and hear more about this crazy marching arts activity. Go subscribe, write us a review, and share this with a friend. We will see you at the next rehearsal on a water break.
Go practice.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Woohoo.